Grizzly. At Grizzly, we believe charging your electric vehicle should be simple, reliable, and affordable. That's why we design, engineer, and build our chargers in Canada, ensuring top-tier quality and performance. Powered by United Chargers, every Grizzly model is crafted in-house, built to withstand extreme conditions, and tested for reliability. Recognized by leading publications for its performance and value, Grizzly delivers both durability and intelligence with heavy-duty aluminum enclosures, premium output cables, and smart charging features like scheduling, usage tracking, and OCPP compatibility with multiple charging apps. Grizzly. Simple, reliable, affordable, built for every climate, every EV, everywhere you go. Visit grizzly.com to learn more.
Hello and welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. Friday, October 24th, 2025, episode 111 if you're keeping count. Today, Tesla Roadster versus BYD's U9 hypercar. Lucid Gravity kind of flunks its range test, and Volvo offers free home charging. Could this be the start of something new? And of course, much, much more. I'm your host, Martin Lee, from the EV News Daily podcast. Joining us today is the globe-trotting Mr. Tom Malogany, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. From Out of Spec Studios is the car reviewing, range testing, track ripping Kyle Connor, and hopefully, for at least a couple of minutes if his Wi-Fi holds up, is Dominic Ionna, longtime car journalist, and I was going to say on vacation, but not. This is Dom's new life. Your new living out of a bag for as long as you feel like doing it. Dominic Ionna, where are you joining us from?
Right now, I am in Belmonte Calabro in Calabria, Italy. So it's a medieval town. I think it was founded in maybe around 800 AD. And the Mediterranean Sea is kind of back there behind me. And this is like a little town. This part of the town is like maybe 1,200 people and just little tiny walkways through everything. It's like wild. And yeah, we came here like on the train. And just so the hosts of this place, they were wonderful, and they met us down there, and we were halfway up the hill because it's way down the hill. When I realized we were in the Renault Twingo, but it was the E-Tech version, electric Twingo. It was awesome. It seemed so far, and I rode in it, so that was pretty cool. Yeah,
brilliant.
And
right, well,
yeah, loving it here.
Thank you.
Way more awesome than I thought it would be. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. The delay, it's good to have you over here in Europe. The delay is about as long as I think it would take if I shouted loudly and you heard me from where you are. But either way, we'll try and persevere for one more question. Look, what's your plan over the next few weeks? You'll be back on the podcast normally, I think, in future weeks when you're maybe on a more robust signal and things like that. But for long-time viewers, I know that what we're getting up to doesn't really matter and stuff, our personal lives. But what's the plan with you?
Well, I think the next after this week, I should be on the show normally, and hopefully we'll have a good Wi-Fi, and I'll be in Agrigento in Sicily. And then I'll be there for maybe 3 weeks, and then I believe the plan is Phu Quoc in Vietnam for a couple months.
All right. Well, we'll catch you in future weeks. Send some pictures of EVs that you spot, and we'll put them on the podcast next week, okay? Take care. Don't end the stream.
Gotcha.
Don't end the stream. I'm going to remove him. Don't end the stream. Don't end. I can do kick from studio. There we go. Kick guest.
Well, Martin, explain why we are so paranoid about this.
So at the end of last week's podcast, if you haven't caught up on last week or you didn't get through the whole show, and you won't be blamed for that, Tom joined us from South Africa with Table Mountain in the background. It was a beautiful setting. And then when Tom joined us in the last maybe 15 minutes of the podcast, joined us on his mobile phone, having flown for almost a full day, halfway around the world, when, Tom, you went to close the browser, you hit end stream, and you just kicked us off of the internet last week. Thanks, Tom.
To my defense, it doesn't say end stream, okay? It did say end, though. But I was beat, man. As you mentioned, I had been flying at that point. From the time I left my house, I just arrived at my hotel. I literally threw my suitcase on the bed, and then picked up the phone and said, "Let me go say hi to the guys," because I knew your show was just about over. And so it'd been about 20 hours or 21 hours, and I had very little sleep, and I was beat, and so that's my excuse. But hey, like I said, once we found out, I ended it. I was talking to the guys back, off the air. I said, "Look, I gave you 15 minutes of your life back, so you should be thankful to me." So, but sorry for everybody for that abrupt ending. That was totally on me. Typical Tom. Train wreck. It's funny. My wife was in the room, and she was listening to me talk outside. She heard what I did, and as soon as I walked into the hotel room, she says, "It's just like you. You just barge into places, you F everything up, and then you just leave."
I love it. Oh, I love it.
Sorry about that.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. We're going to go get into a few things on the podcast. I might need to dash after an hour this week, but we might only do an hour. So make sure you stay tuned. Join us in the comments as well. It's the best place to hang out on a Friday morning or afternoon, as you know, Dom's on my time zone now. And so, yeah, leave a comment. Let us know what you're thinking when we talk about today's stories, and we'll get you in the comments section as well. Now, we'll kick off with some, we'll talk about what we've been doing. But first of all, just days ago, the BYD U9 Extreme smashed the Nürburgring Nordschleife lap record for production EVs. It was 6 minutes, 59.15 seconds. Just under 7 minutes, right? The first electric car to dip below the 7-minute mark around the green hell. Faster than recent records set by the Xiaomi SU7 Ultra, Rimac Nevera, Porsche Taycan Turbo GT. And at the same time, last Sunday on the Ride the Lightning Tesla podcast, Franz von Holzhausen, Tesla's chief designer, showed up and confirmed that the new Tesla Roadster is coming this year. And so let's take that at face value, and that he was, being honest, reassuring fans that the project is on track, that the Roadster will showcase groundbreaking performance, describing its capabilities as the limits of physics. Elon Musk, of course, at launch many years ago, talked about a hardcore smackdown to combustion world, but the world's moved on a lot since we first saw the new Tesla Roadster. So how do they compare? Right, Tesla Roadster doesn't exist, so we'll kind of go with what they've said. 1.9 seconds to 60, SpaceX package to get it to a second, limit of physics, as he talked about. Top speed, 250, 620 miles of range, 200 kilowatt hour battery, but again, it's not real, so I'll save them. But anyway, the Yangwang U9 Extreme, they're going to make 30 of them, and I'm guessing you can't afford one, but this is real. So 3,000 PS of power, so 30,000 horsepower. Top speed officially measured at 308.4 miles per hour. That's 496.22 kilometers an hour. And this is real, and it's on the road right now. And it was driven by a GT LMP3 driver, Moritz Krantz, who's done about 10,000 miles of the Nordschleife. So pretty experienced. Kyle, it's really interesting. The world's moved on a lot since we first saw the Roadster, but they came out last Sunday. Tesla don't do these things by accident, to say, hey, Roadster's coming. Like, can Tesla, you know a lot of people there, a lot of engineers and stuff. The Chinese seem so far ahead. Do Tesla need to one-up BYD on the pure specs? Or what does Tesla need to do with the Roadster?
Well, the Roadster is supposed to be a halo car for the brand. I think every car needs a halo product. And the purpose of a halo product is not to look at it from an objective standpoint or from a sales volume standpoint, but it really defines what the company is capable of. And, this is what we've seen with, for example, the Cadillac Celestiq, where they've gone ultra luxury, not so much on the tech side, but showing, hey, we can do the Cadillac bespoke thing. You can see this with Porsches, for example. You had the Carrera GT and then the 918, low volume, insane performance, big driver engagement, something most people will never be able to not only drive, but even see one out in the wild. It is sort of a company defining talking points that we would mention on the show, and not just us, but of course throughout all of the automotive world. So I think the Roadster has to be that for Tesla. The Roadster needs to be there to show, hey, Tesla still is an engineering powerhouse, because right now, other than their autonomy suite, their cars are lackluster. I mean, I've owned them. I love them. I'm a longtime Tesla driver. They are getting smashed by not just the Chinese, but the Germans and even some Americans in terms of charging, range, and handling, which is something Tesla's always excelled at, but then they plateaued. this could be their opportunity to say, you know what? We still are focused on autonomy, and that's where the majority of our cars are going, but we still know how to build a fast car. And that's what I'm hoping they showcase with the Roadster, is truly that smackdown in terms of whatever physics bending performance that they were mentioning. Could be really interesting.
Yeah. So have you still got your Plaid, your Model S? You still have that?
Yeah, sorry, just glitched a little second, but yes, I still have the Plaid. One of our viewers called me up a couple weeks ago and offered me 60 grand for it. So I don't know, it's like I spent 140 plus taxes, then I did all the upgrades, so I'm into this thing for like way too much money. But to be honest, I don't love it. I've always had issues with the car in terms of just like general seating position, rattles and creaks and stuff. I've been very open about that on the internet. And this viewer knows the whole history of the car. And he was like, yeah, I'll give you 60 grand for it. I'm like, oh, well, maybe I would sell it, but then what do I get? And the replacement for a long distance vehicle would probably have to be a Taycan, I would think. I would do a Lucid Air. I would consider that as well, but I would want the Sapphire, and that's way too much money. So I've got a Sapphire right here in the driveway. Boom, there it is.
Look at that. Wow.
So that's nice to have. That goes back to Lucid at some point. Don't know when. They said keep it until I'm done with the testing. So I'm going really slow with the testing.
Yeah. not driving slowly, but just testing. No, a little bit by a little bit. Tom, what's Tesla got to do? Because the Chinese are here, and I've talked about it before. I don't think the Chinese are fully appreciated outside of China. I don't know the exact translation of Yang Wang, but it's something to do with, in China, it's something to do with reaching up or looking up. I think it's obviously like a connotation in Western language that you can, apply to it. I don't think it translates massively well, but that's also quite insulting to Chinese people because it's a source of huge national pride that they're hitting these new records. They're making the best EVs in the world. And they're like, who cares if you don't get what we call the cars? For them, it's a very personal, national pride name. There is a direct translation that's something that's, very positive. So how it translates over here, I don't know whether it's called a BYD U9 Extreme or not. It doesn't really matter. But the engineering seems so far ahead of what anyone else is doing. It is, it's just something that they can spend some money on. And they are selling like 30 of these. They won't make any money on them, but they're doing it. I don't know. I don't know whether Tesla need to beat all the specs at all. I think the problem that Tesla have got, I was asking you a question, I'm doing a bit, but I think that for so long Tesla led, and then there's a temptation to think that Tesla has to regain its crown by because for so long Tesla just beat everybody on metrics, particularly in a straight line. Yeah, but I don't know how they beat. Sure. Like how do they do? How does Tesla compete now in this new world of the Chinese? Yeah,
well, Kyle really, I think, laid out the groundwork for this whole discussion pretty well. How do they compete? I don't know what surprises me or not surprises me, maybe concerns me, and I guess I shouldn't be concerned about Tesla because they're still selling very well, and profits are up. But you think about their last two vehicles. Let's say the new Roadster is their next vehicle. It sounds like it's coming pretty soon. I know we've heard about the cyber cab coming out with no steering wheel or whatever, but we don't even know is that going to be available to purchase for people, or is it going to be fleets? I don't think that's been clearly defined yet, because without a steering wheel and everything, will it even be allowed to be sold to the public? But and I hear my volume is low. What's interesting is, to me, if you look at the Cybertruck, and if the Roadster 2.0 is the next vehicle, their last two vehicles that they put out are very low volume. I mean, the Cybertruck is tanking. It's the sales are terrible on the Cybertruck. So how long has it been since Tesla put out a new car that, and a new model, not a refresh model, that excited people and people just drove to online to order them? This will be two vehicles in a row that they sunk a ton of money into that they really just don't sell a lot. And as far as your angle on just what does Tesla do? Do they need to compete? I don't know if they necessarily need to compete. The Chinese, I think, need to prove that they can do it. Tesla's already proven that they can put out world-class vehicles, but as Kyle said, now they kind of need to remind us, look what we can do, because their vehicles, while they're selling well, 3 and Y are selling well, X and S really, surprising that they even have them around anymore. They really are such low volume vehicles, but 3 and Y are selling so well throughout the world. They're, as Kyle mentioned, they're kind of pedestrian at this point. But a lot of people are fine with that. A lot of the masses are fine with like average vehicles that, have good range, charge relatively quickly. I think sometimes we live in this bubble where we want every vehicle to charge faster than every other vehicle and go farther than every other vehicle. We need to be in that bubble because we're the ones that are pushing the OEMs to make things better. It's great when Kyle goes out there and trashes a car that, maybe charges really well as it is, but it's not as good as it should be at that price point. That keeps them honest. But Tesla, at this point, I think they need to put out the Roadster to show us what they can do. But then I'm concerned about, well, what's next? What's coming next from the brand? Is there something else that they're working on that's going to excite people? Because what else? What are they doing now that really excites people?
I mean, FSD is their exciting product at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's driving sales. It's interesting to me. The supercharger network was a main driver of sales early on for Tesla, like in 2017, 18, 19, 2020, in the early 20s. People literally bought Teslas because of the supercharger network. And I know this. I know so many people that were like, yeah, I really don't love the car, but damn, you can go anywhere with it, and it's so easy to charge. And the other networks are just chaos, disjointed. They don't work. I don't know where to go. So many people bought Teslas because of the supercharger network. Now, people are buying Teslas because of FSD, not necessarily loving the car, but they're case in point, the guy Dish, my friend that I drove down to Florida with, he didn't really necessarily want a Tesla, didn't really love the Model Y, the looks and everything, but he bought it simply for FSD. And now that he has it, he loves it though. I will say that. I'm going to do a follow-up video with him. So the interesting thing is, like, what's next then, Kyle? What's going to be the next thing that drives people to Teslas? It's really not the vehicles that I can see. There's no new thing that we're going to say. Is it Cybercab? I can't imagine that we're close to allowing vehicles driving on roads without steering wheels. I still can't imagine that we're close to that. So, I mean, even the FSD, it's fantastic. It works amazingly. But even I was talking to Dish just this morning, and his wife won't drive in the car, right? She's afraid of driving the car. It's an older couple. She went for the first time. She went this weekend or a couple days ago, and he took his son and his wife out for a drive to show them FSD, and it made the first serious mistake of him having it. She had to be in the car. Now she won't go in the car. It was leaving a parking lot. It went out the wrong way of a one-way exit on a parking lot and then turned left across traffic. It was a busy 4-lane road, 2 lanes on each way. And when it got to the middle, it didn't know what to do. So it just stopped and shut off. And now there's traffic going around them. She's screaming in the back seat. Their son was driving. He was letting his son drive. So that's where it's still fantastic. It drove me from Florida to here, but it's still nowhere near being able to take away the steering wheel. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think we're going to have cars without steering wheels soon?
Yeah, in certain markets, I think so. Absolutely. I mean,
in geofenced areas, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, well, I've ridden in the robo-taxi thing in Austin, and it was great. Worked wonderfully. I mean, yeah, there's someone on the passenger seat with their finger on the trigger to slam on the brakes, I guess is what that button does, but it worked. And I rode 10 hours in the car with no issue. I'm like, oh, okay, we're kind of there. We're close. It's pretty crazy. And the thing is, I see the light on FSD. Also, I had a drive on FSD the other day. We could talk about it on the show. I went to Virginia Beach area to drive electric boats, and I used FSD from here in North Carolina to get up there. It was about a 2-hour drive. and it sucked. It was terrible. The sun was hitting the windshield. The car was slamming on the brakes. It was freaking out. It was making all these weird moves, and it just felt like it was a bad day for it. That's on an older hardware 3 car, but still, sucks. But I see the light on FSD, especially when I get in a new Model Y, which is seemingly what it's adapted for. And it just kind of does everything. It's really cool. But I will say there's so many viewers, so many even commenters here that are like, FSD doesn't matter. No one cares about FSD. And I think you're going to see this split, and it's happening now, of people who are totally in love with it that almost pushes the naysayers even farther into their sentiment of no one cares about it. I think people should try to be a little bit more open and say, hey, I realize this is a technology that is not perfect today, that you have to pay attention while it's in use, but it's fun to watch it progress and get better, and just approach it with a little bit more of an open mind. I don't think it's a huge sales driver. I think it's exciting, but I think a lot of people just don't realize how nice it is to use when you're not forced to use it. So everyone that I think tests FSD is like, oh, my buddy has a car with FSD. Let's get in a car and go somewhere, and I'm going to look at the system and analyze the system and try FSD. But when you're just trying to like go to the grocery store or go to Starbucks in the morning, and you're like, I got like 50 things on my mind, I'm just getting in the car, and it just takes you there, and you're there just to take over for emergency situations, that's when you're like, oh, this is actually really nice and relaxing and incredible. So that's my personal view. I think it's cool. It's not perfect, needs a lot of work. And also, let's not forget, Tesla is not the only one now working on this level of autonomy on vehicles that are on the road today. Rivian, much more quietly, is talking about seriously upping the capability of their vehicles to do what FSD can do today with their current fleet that's in production. So their Gen 2 Rivians apparently are hugely upgradable. Rivian's hosting an autonomy day in just over a month to discuss their future. But those cars also have a lot of sensors and hardware compute power to get much better. So it could be really interesting.
I think GM this week said that the Escalade IQ would be the first electric car to get their level 4 system as well. 2027, I think maybe they said. A bunch of GM news this week that kind of came out, and a lot was kind of buried under the end of Bright Drop, unfortunately. But yeah, so everyone's working on it. Super interesting, and yeah, watch this space. But hey, not long till the end of the year. I can't wait to see what they come out with. It's going to be exciting. Now, a company that is releasing very exciting vehicles had a difficult week or two, and that is Lucid Gravity. Look, there's no doubt the Lucid Gravity is incredibly capable 3-row large SUV that does a great job. But the Grand Touring at 450 miles EPA with its 123 kilowatt hour battery and an efficient in-house electric motors, really compact packaging, and starting at $96,000 is an expensive vehicle. But on a recent 70 mile an hour range test, Tom, things didn't go exactly as planned for the Gravity. Standardized 70 mile an hour range test running down to 0. You had the smallest aero wheels on it. It was about 50, in the 50s, I think it was. It was a nighttime run to avoid the traffic, and you did finish in the early hours. Well, no, more than that, at 3 o'clock in the morning. So the number, we'll start with the number, and you can tell us about the drama that unfolded as well. The Gravity, 345 miles was your result. That's more than 100 miles off of EPA. Now, some variation is totally understandable, but that's way, way off what Lucid's own target is. 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour is their target, I think. Okay, so let's get into why it left you stranded almost at 3 o'clock in the morning. But first of all, that's a really low number, 345. How did it go, Tom?
The funny thing is we say that's a really low number.
I know.
How many EVs can go 345 miles at 70 miles an hour?
Okay, so iX, EQS, the other Lucids, Taycan. Yeah, but I'm just thinking in the SUV class.
New BMW iX3. New
that will definitely do it. New Cayenne can do it.
Yep. So I mean, they're you can count them on one hand. That was my point. Not nobody could do it. You can count them on one hand, but still, when you set the bar, when you say this is a 450 mile EV, it's advertised all over the website. then you've set that bar. So I was really hoping, or not hoping, expecting to get around 380-ish, 380, 390. I didn't expect to hit 450 at 70 miles an hour. Don't forget, that's the combined EPA range rating. We've talked all about EPA here. Some automakers consistently overperform, some underperform, some kind of are right on there. Lucid vehicles typically go a little bit less than their EPA rating, than their combined EPA rating. I don't have the highway EPA range rating for the Gravity. And by the way, this was the 5-seat Gravity. The 7-seat Gravity is EPA rated at I think 387 miles or something like that. This one is the one that was rated at 450 miles. So yeah, I did the range test. The weather conditions weren't great. I had about a 10-mile-an-hour wind for most of the range test. I really like when the wind is like 5 miles an hour and less, because that doesn't seem to have that much of an effect. Once you get over 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 miles an hour, it definitely affects the vehicle. Now, I drive in loops like Kyle does. We try to do the same type of range test. So if you're getting a headwind one way, you're getting a tailwind the other, but it still hurts the range test. So yeah, I finished up with a 3 mile per kilowatt hour average, 345 miles. But I did end the range test. It was on 1% state of charge, but I had been driving on 1% for like 3 miles at that point. And actually, as I was sitting there in the car doing my end of the video talk, the car went down to 0. So I was just on the edge of 0, but just 0. And the Lucids typically do have a good size lower end buffer. I talked to Kyle about this, and Kyle was like, yeah, they're usually around 6 kilowatt hour. That would make sense because I accessed 115 kilowatt hour. That's what the car told me I used. It's supposed to have 123 kilowatt hour battery pack. If you add the 6 that I supposedly didn't use, that would take us up to 121. That's close enough to what it should be to say, okay, that's where we're at. So could I have driven at 3 miles per kilowatt hour, 6 more, could I have driven to 18 more miles? Perhaps I could have that night. But if you watch my range test videos, I don't have a team of people and a portable DC charger like Kyle does, although I could use my Lightning. I could have someone follow me in the Lightning because with Pro Power on board. But you know what? The way I do my range tests, when the state of charge says 0, I end the range test. Is there lower end buffers in the cars? There are. But typically, I drive a little bit past the 0 and then pull over and end the range test, because I say most people, other than us EV nerd crazy people, are freaking out when the range test when the state of charge says 0, and they don't want to use that extra buffer. So I end the range test there. So yeah, so this is what happens. I call Lucid the next day, and I didn't end up. You see me at the Tesla Supercharger.
Let's go back, Tom. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 3:20 in the morning. You've finished your range test. You've gone back to the same Tesla Supercharger where you started, like where that car began its journey, and it charged fine. And the display had just ticked from 1% down to 0%. You record the piece to camera saying, "I'm done. I'm going home. Here's the number. Goodbye." And then,
and then you see me jump back into the car, start the camera up again. The Lucid wouldn't accept the charge. I went to the same stall that I charged to charge up before the range test. Didn't work. Moved it over. Doesn't work. Went back to the stall. Doesn't work. So now the lucky thing is there's an Electrify America site a mile away. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm sure I can make it there. You know, it just turned over to 0. I know there's a lower end buffer. At least there was with the Airs. I don't know. Lucid could have changed their philosophy, and 0 could be 0, like it is on some other vehicles. I said, let me drive over to there. So I drove over to the Electrify America site, made it, plugged in. I brought my CCS to NACS adapter just in case I needed to use that a CCS station, and it worked fine. So I got back in the car and said, Electrify America saves the day. And of course, there's millions of comments in the videos like, first time we've heard that, but not really. That's being harsh on Electrify America. There's plenty of times that they've saved the day. But anyway, so I was able to drive over there. Now it's down below 0. I think I accessed 116 kilowatt hour, it said when I was done, and ended the range test there. Drove home. It was like 3:45 when I left the charger and drove home. So I contacted Lucid the next day. I usually tell the OEMs what my results were the next day and give them a little heads up of what's coming so they know what to expect when I post my video, and maybe they want to comment on it, And Lucid was a little they certainly weren't pleased with the results. They weren't angry. They didn't give me any pushback, nothing like that. They just said, "Oh wow, we'd hoped you'd done better than that, but we'll take a look at your what was going on in the car and get back to you." So they contacted me later on in the day and said, "Let me turn my thing up. I hear my mic might be low. I'm getting comments."
Okay, I can turn you up this end as well, or maybe I'm too loud. This could be what it is.
Yeah. So is that a little better, guys? So anyway.
Yeah.
I got the call back and they said that, so listen, a couple of things. Number one, there's a problem with your rear drive unit. And that was why the charge on the Electrify America, the Tesla supercharger. They said that's what triggered the problem with that it won't charge on the supercharger.
So when there's this drive unit fault, it can no longer do 400-volt boosting. Which seems like a real problem because it could leave someone stranded like it almost left you.
So in any event, I don't know what the fault was, Kyle, but whatever it was caused that. And they said, and it looks like probably that would affected the range test also. So this problem must have happened while I was driving the vehicle, because it worked fine before. So any event, they came pick up the vehicle that day. So I could, there was other tests and things I wanted to actually try to do a 60-mile-an-hour range test or an 80-mile-an-hour range test, one of those two, depending on what time slot I could get in, just to compare it to the 70, but I couldn't do it because they came and took it back. And they said, oh, and by the way, we also noticed that the rear seat HVAC was running while you did the range test. Now, I'm nearly certain that I shut it off before the range test. It's possible that I shut it off and then supercharged it, and then when the car came back on, it turned itself on by itself. That could have happened. I honestly don't remember. But in any event, it was on low, and I can't imagine it making that much of a difference. Maybe a mile or two during the range test, because I keep the range test, just the vehicles. Whenever I do the range test, whether it's hot or cold, I keep the cabin on the edge of me being uncomfortable. I don't try to waste any extra energy. So it was not like the cabin was nice and warm. So anyway, those are 345 with the caveat, perhaps the rear drive unit might have affected the range test. I had a 10-mile-an-hour wind, and perhaps the rear HVAC was running. So I'm going to repeat this for sure. I think I'm going to do it back here in New Jersey. At first, I told them, it's going to get really cold here now. Why don't we do it out in an area where I can get a better, better climate? Because I like to be fair to comparing it to other vehicles. And but now that I'm back from Cape Town, I reached out to them. I believe they've already replaced that rear drive unit. I think they're arranging to get me the same vehicle, and I'm going to try to pick a day where it's not too cold, because now we're in the 40s and 50s. I don't want to do it in the 40s because that'll definitely take an extra 10 or 12 miles off of it. And I'm going to repeat it, guys, as soon as I can, and we'll see. But it's not looking like, it seems like Lucid makes great vehicles. I really, the Gravity's a really nice, super nice, comfortable vehicle. Fast and powerful as all hell. Way faster than it needs to be. And I was actually thinking about this as I was doing the range test. I'm like, I would be fine if they gave up a little power and made it get closer to the EPA range rating. That's not necessarily the trade-off, though. It doesn't necessarily mean just by giving it less power it's going to go farther. But perhaps I would have focused more on engineering-wise to get the range closer to 400 miles than the power. Because honestly, if you buy that type of vehicle, you're not drag racing the thing. It's fun to mash it every now and then and have it just crush you back into the seat, which it does. It's stupid fast. It felt faster than my first generation Rivian R1S. I don't know if it's close, but it actually felt faster than my Rivian, which is bonkers. It's a tick over 3 seconds to 60 for an SUV, which is actually more minivan than SUV, if you ask me. But in any event, that's what we ended up with, guys.
I don't like the rear drive unit excuse. No, I'm not saying they were lying, but I don't like that. It either worked or it didn't. Like if the car broke down and you called recovery, that's one thing. But say you were an average owner of that vehicle, nothing came up on the dash or to say there's an issue with the rear drive unit. You'd have driven around for the next 3 years with an issue with the rear drive unit. And not charging on Tesla superchargers and thinking, there's an issue with my car or whatnot. And this is I'm not saying that press vehicles should be fettled and honed and not representative of series production. Absolutely not. Let's make sure the press get cars that are the same as the ones that are being bought. But like it's either an issue or it's not. And if it's an issue, you get a warning on the dash. And I don't know, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. But it makes me feel a little uncomfortable. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
So I will say this, I did get a warning on the dash.
Okay, right. Ignore me.
But I had gotten warnings earlier on also that like the camera wasn't working and the car's glitchy. No two ways about it. It's not fully baked yet. And that's no secret. Go to the forums, look online, the owners that have them. So I kind of, in the beginning when I was getting warnings, I was checking them. But then as I was doing the range tests, I'm just like, yeah, it's just, they need to do a couple software updates and get this thing really, fully baked. So I ignored it. But if you look in the video, there's times where there's a screenshot of the video. There's a warning icon on the dash. But I just gave up looking at them because, it was, I got a few of them. And washer fluid low, no, camera, camera obstructed or whatever. I was getting some glitches during the whole time. So I just kind of ignored it. I wish now I had gone back during the range test and checked what it said, because it might have said rear drive unit issue, but I would have ignored that too, because I think I thought it was just faulty sensors. I don't think the things were actually not functioning properly. I think it was just sensors were telling them it wasn't functioning properly, but it was.
Interesting. And Carl, how's your experience going with the Sapphire? Any issues with expected range?
Well, so it's important to remember that the Air and the Gravity are very separate in terms of their electrical architecture. So I'm happy to report no major bugs with the Sapphire. And I agree with Tom. All of my Gravity experiences have been extremely buggy. That car is not baked. It is not ready to be a series production car, in my opinion. If in very short spurts that I'm driving cars and having warnings and getting locked out of them. I sat in the back of a parking lot for 20 minutes trying to turn one on a few weeks ago. Like that should not happen. And there's a reason why Lucid hasn't been, hey, Kyle, go on a road trip into Gravity, because we're going to film all that. But I've got a viewer with a 5-seat Gravity who's going to let me take it. I know Tom's got that one from them. So regardless, Gravity content coming on our side. I'm not going to wait for them to tell me when they're ready for us to film it. On the other hand, super cool of them to loan me the Sapphire. Again, a couple of years after start of production, right? For them to bake that in. They were waiting on a big software update for the inverter before they did their big media press loans. That came out. So we don't know what the car was like early on. It could have been perfect, could have been different, don't know. But I will say this car is an incredible car, incredible package. It drives so well. It just doesn't have the range either, similar to what Tom ran into. Yeah, so we've had the I just glitched out for a second, but hopefully you guys can hear me okay.
Yeah, it might be me. Yeah.
Okay, so 427 mile EPA range rating. Now, it's important to remember when I ran the Lucid Air Grand Touring at 70 miles an hour, that car did 510.5 miles at 70. In not perfect conditions, it was a little chilly outside, especially towards the end of that drive. Now, the Lucid Sapphire, which is a near identical car because it has a little bit wider fender. It has an extra motor in the back. So now you've gone 3 motors instead of 2, but the platform is the same. The battery pack is roughly the same capacity, and maybe even the same battery for all I know. I was expecting this car to go about what the EPA range rating was, because that's what the last Lucid Air did that I tested. And I was 90 miles short of the EPA range rating. And that includes driving it to where it stopped moving, using the 6 kilowatt hour buffer in this car until it. So in our testing, we say as soon as the car can't maintain 70 miles an hour, that's when we log the 70 mile per hour range test. Then we see how far it can go afterwards, or we find a good place to pull over, end the test, whatever. But that was a true 70 miles an hour from the second it clicked at 100% to where it pulled out. We got 112 kilowatt hours out of the car. and I averaged either 2.98 or 3 miles per kilowatt hour. Very not great efficiency. Also, the car's on the aero wheels. I don't know if you can see back here, but it's not on the wheels you're seeing on video. It's on the aero disc wheels. So I installed those carbon fiber covers. You can't really tell. And I can't figure it out. I, of course, made sure all the settings were correct. 68 degrees on the climate, rear climate was off. Started at 75 degrees ambient temperature, ended around the 55, 60 degree range. So it's not, it got chillier throughout the drive, but not the end of the world. And again, ran it till it died. And I just don't know. At first I thought like, man, this car must have been degraded. It had 5,000 miles on it, but it's been built for a while. And I have the car in my app. It's been at 100% all the time in storage. So I thought maybe there was some calendar aging, but we pulled the high side of 112 kilowatt hours out of that car, close to 113, because it sat at 112 for a while till it died. And just didn't have the efficiency that I was expecting. So again, maybe there's an issue with this car, but that's now 2 Lucids between the two of us that in the last week fell way short of their EPA ratings.
Interesting, isn't it? Okay. Well, try and give them benefit of the doubt as a startup, but a very, very well funded and backed startup. And they've been around a really long time as well. So we want all these companies to do well and not be too harsh, but we can't not tell the truth. So we'll get on to a thing from Volvo in a second, but first of all, I'll get your guys' opinion on this. This is a single source report this week, so I don't want to go too hardcore on it. It's a good source, but it was a single source. Volkswagen Group is tightening its spending after Manager magazine in Germany reported, and this is Google Translate from German, reported net cash flow has fallen to dangerously low levels. The CFO of Volkswagen convened all the financial chiefs from around the various group companies to tell us how they're going to reduce costs. The cash strain is affecting Scout Motors, Volkswagen's revived US nameplate, relaunched in 2022 with an EV, SUV, and pickup, and a range extended version as well. Last year, Scout announced the range extended drivetrain is the more popular option. Manager magazine in Germany reporting this week that the Scout electric truck will only be available with a combustion engine as a range extender. The pure electric version either shelved, cancelled, paused. They weren't clear on that. I found this in the Utopian, re-reporting what the Germans had been saying in this report. It kind of makes sense. Tom, I sent you this on our WhatsApp chat this week. What did you make of it?
Yeah, well, like you said, single source reporting, but it doesn't surprise me. There's it wouldn't surprise me at all. They know what their reservations are. How many people pre-ordered, each one, and if the numbers didn't make sense, I have to believe the majority of people ordered it with the range extender. Because it's kind of with these big trucks, that seems to be something that Americans in particular want, the freedom to go wherever they want, to tow things, and it's difficult with a full BEV to live that lifestyle right now with a truck. Depending on where you live and what you like to do, it makes sense to have the range extender. Now, it's not for me personally. I would only get the full electric version of it. I don't need the range extender, but I recognize a lot of people do, and a lot of people want it. So if there's a crunch to be had now, like Dodge talked about with their truck, initially saying that they're not going to do the full electric version anymore. It's just going to be the hybrid. That doesn't surprise me, and it might not be a terrible thing if they bring out the range extended versions first, iron out the bugs, because there'll be bugs and kinks and everything, and then come out with the full BEV version maybe a year or two later. Maybe that is the right philosophy, financially for them, rather than do it all at once. But I don't think they would kill it off. I think if anything, what you talk about is come out with the EREVs first, and then maybe, test the waters, and then launch the full BEV a year or two later. And perhaps a couple of years down the road, the climate in the U.S. is going to change again. The winds are going to change a little bit and be a little bit more pro-EV. Right now, what we're seeing is, pullback by a lot of manufacturers, certainly by government. I think that could have scared Volkswagen.
Yeah. Carl, what do you think?
Hard to say this early on. We'll just have to see what happens. I think the range extended was going to be the more popular anyway. So if they're going to choose one, that makes the most sense.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Perfect. All right, let's move on. So I don't spend too long on that, and it's not hugely consequential anyway. Hey, could this be a new model for charging? Now, Tom, you've been a critic of car companies offering free charging out of home. Volvo and Vattenfall will provide buyers of the Volvo models in Sweden with a year's free charging from next year. The scheme covers 5,150 kilowatt hours, so it's not a year, it's not unlimited, it's not eat all you can, it is a cap. They say it's 25,000 kilometers on an EX90's WLTP cycle. It's to those who buy or lease a Volvo vehicle in Sweden. You've got to be with that power provider as well, and it's only for the electricity that goes to the vehicle, but it's going to be completely free if you charge at home. But Volvo did confirm, the reason why we're reporting it this week is that this is a pilot program. It will inform their wider rollout, their wider strategy of incentivizing people to buy their vehicles. They also talked about, vehicle to home and things like that. And we're going to get onto that a little bit in a moment, Tom. But does this meet with your approval of giving away free home charging rather than charging on the road?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a big advocate of, incentivizing home charging when possible. Not everybody can charge at hhome. So there needs to be some sort of an alternative. Now, admittedly, I haven't read all the details on this yet. I'm really just getting back from South Africa, guys, dealing with a ton of stuff. I need to read the full details of that offer. I don't know it, but I just read the headlines and basically the quick overview. Whatever incentivizes home charging, I think is the right way for manufacturers to go. They want to do some sort of incentive. That waving that carrot of free is a huge, powerful carrot. It's a huge incentive when you tell people, free energy, and that's why so many of the automakers did the free public charging things, because it was such a powerful tool when people went to the dealership and they said, look, lease this vehicle for 3 years and you never have to pay for fuel. And people are thinking of gas. My God, gas every week I'm throwing 60, 70 bucks out. That's all money in my pocket. That's going to be half my car payment. And that brought in a lot of people. So I understand that free carrot. Eventually, I think that's going to go away. And I think the home charging incentives are going to be done through utilities and even charging manufacturers, like what Grizzly is doing now up in Canada with the Grizzly Club, where they're actually paying you back some money, and basically giving you the free charger. I think industry is going to do that, but I understand why automakers want to do this. They want that carrot. They want to be able to say, look, we're giving you this for free. Buy this, lease our car, and you won't have to pay for energy. So incentivizing home charging is really the right path to go. And luckily, it seems like most of the automakers now have either canceled or greatly reduced their free charging public programs, which I think is the right. I think it finally sunk in. So yeah, I like this. I want to read the full the full details of it. We'll have an article up on evchargingstations.com probably within a couple days. I know Mark is already on it. That he sent me a message. Mark, my writer, is already doing some research on this. But I think it's good, Martin. I think it's a good step.
Yeah, it is where most of the time our vehicles are stored. I think turnkey solutions are really good. Ford's still doing their, is it called Pro Power Promise in the United States, where they were giving you the charger as well. Like that, I think that's the ultimate, because it's like, buy one of our cars and then we'll get it sorted. Like you can charge at home.
Don't worry about it. We're going to give you the equipment and we're going to install it. What a powerful tool. And that's really driven their sales in the last 8 months or so since they started this. That is real. I mean, you look at Ford Mustang Mach-E and Lightning sales. I know they're not what people want to see and even what Ford predicted, but Ford, I think last quarter sold the most Lightning they ever did, or second most they ever did. Now, this is a truck that's 3.5 years old, and it had like the best quarter that it had. So Lightning sales are still strong, even though unfortunately we heard about they're going to pause production now. It's just a matter of they're making more than what the market was buying, so they're going to pause production for a little while to let the inventory dwindle down before they start up again. It's tough to see that because it's such a good truck. And since we're talking about Lightning really quick, I'll remind everybody, if you have a Lightning, tomorrow, yeah, it's tomorrow, geez, is the annual F-150 Lightning Northeast Club get-together that Ford and myself are sponsoring here in the town of Chester. Now, anybody can go. You don't have to have a Lightning. There's a local farm here and a whole bunch of Lightning. I think we have 25 trucks committed now. Unfortunately, we only announced it like 8 or 9 days before the event. In previous years, we gave people like a month's notice, and I've had like 10 or 15 people say, "Tom, why'd you wait so long? I would have come, but I have plans now." So we're going to go to a local farm. We have food trucks. We're doing a frunker treat. Ford's bringing a ton of candy. We're all going to open up our frunks, have them all lined up, and there's going to be tons of kids because this is a super busy farm. There's going to be like 1,000 people there, and we're going to give away free candy. So if you're in the area or if you're not in the area and you want to come up and hang out with us for a day, it's at Allsteed Farms in Chester, New Jersey, tomorrow starting at 10 a.m., 10 to 3. Please stop by and just, even if you don't have a Lightning, park in the other lot. You won't be able to park with our Lightnings, but park in the other lot, come over and hang out. I'm going to be giving away state of charge swag. Ford is going to be giving away stuff. It's going to be a fun day.
All right. Sounds good. All right, we've covered up home charging. Let's talk about public charging now and see if this matches Kyle's experiences of being on the road. US public fast charger additions continued in Q3. Parron reporting that 700 stations came online in Q3 in the United States. Their count differs from the official US DOE figure of 780. I mean, only 80 difference, but Parent track stations that have been switched on, actually energized. DOE, I think, appears to include anything that is, actually in the ground, even if it's active or not. Deployment in the United States is now clearly favoring larger sites and higher powered sites as well. 4,061 ports were added to the United States, of which Tesla supplied 1,820 of those connectors. That is more than the next 9 networks combined, and that's the Tesla supercharger network expanding rapidly. The US total comes to about 34,000 stalls now. Tesla's share of charging actually is going down a little bit. I think that's because other networks are coming online, but more also, other drivers can now use Tesla superchargers, so it's interesting how that might affect the data. But this looks like really positive news coming out of the US, particularly the continued expansion of Tesla superchargers. I don't do a huge amount of miles anymore. I work from home pretty much, so I don't see it. But Kyle, do you feel it when you're driving around the US that the DC network is getting better, and that you'd agree or not that Tesla's leading the way?
So I think there's 2 things happening that paint a really nice picture for the US charging infrastructure. The first is I feel like the reliability of everyone generally is a bit better. Now, I say that as I was at an Electrify America station yesterday. Everyone was able to charge, but I did have to help 4 separate people to get charging. So, okay, activation may be still a problem. I always get new stories every time I go to a public DC fast charger. But the reliability is getting better. I think the days of showing up to a station and being stranded happen far less. And there's more backup options than the need. So that's one thing. The second thing is the number of ports installed. Moving back to North Carolina from Colorado, we used to live here in the early days of EVs, and then now coming back, it is amazing. You can drive anywhere you want in the Southeast, especially the great charging infrastructure in the Southeast, and not think about it. It's very impressive. And so I'm really thrilled with the improvement. And of course, shout out to my colleague Walter, who does a bunch of DC fast charge infrastructure updates on our Out of Spec Bits channel. He's constantly tracking new ports, new locations, new hubs, and it's really cool to just see every week he has no shortage of sites to talk about.
Yeah, that's one of your busier channels. Actually, there's always stuff on that. Tom, tell us about what happened with Ionna. I'm going to pick the phone up. It might be my kid's school calling early, but Tom, tell us what happened with Ionna and your visit.
Okay, yeah. So you might have seen last week I posted a video that I visited Electrify America's headquarters and engineering labs. Right after that, I went down to Garner, North Carolina, and visited Ionna. And I have a EV Go in the pipeline next too, and a couple more after that I'm going to visit these network operators and kind of get a state of affairs and do an interview. So I spoke with Dan Bryant, who's the SVP of site operations. I also interviewed Phil Rach, who is their senior or their the head engineer of charging technology. But the video with Dan and Phil were so long, I split them up into two videos. Phil's video isn't out yet. I just showed the video with Dan just a couple of days ago. I'll have Phil's up in a couple of days from now. But that alone was like a 40-minute video. So yeah, I got to talk to them, ask them a ton of questions. I mean, they were super open, which is really so great. I mentioned this in the video. You know, when I showed up, they kind of said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, first I want to shoot some B-roll. So I need to walk around, take some pictures. They're like, okay, go ahead. I'm like, well, is there anything you don't want me to show? Is there any places I can't go? They're like, no. I was like, do you need to see the B-roll, like in case I capture something? No, go ahead, walk around. So I was poking in every corner and taking videos of everything. I mean, they let me just walk around the whole place by myself, which is really cool. And their engineering labs, I will note that that's unusual. Like when I went to Electrify America, there were certainly places that were off limits. They wanted to view my B-roll, so I didn't capture. You might have noticed there's some blacked out areas when I did the video, things they didn't want shown. But Ionna was just kind of like, yeah, go ahead. There's one whiteboard over there. If you could avoid that, because we've got some information on that. So like other than that, go ahead. Really cool setup. Their new offices. They have all their offices in one area and the engineering offices in the other area, and it's separated by windows, so you can see each other. Really great cafeteria, free food, coffee, and everything. Everyone's just kind of up walking around. It's not like people are locked into their cubicles. It seemed like a real relaxed atmosphere. And in the corner of the office, there's this big gong. And so I was like, okay, got to tell me about the gong. And so every time they turn on a new site or break ground on construction of a new site, somebody bangs the gong, So it's it's like a camaraderie thing, where, and they're like, the gong wasn't going off much like 4 or 5 months ago, but now it's like, it's getting annoying. It's like sometimes it goes off 3 times in one day, So, but that's fun. And that's what you want. You want an atmosphere of people that generally want to do what they're doing, feel like they're making progress. And that's the impression that I got from Ionna. They're enthused about what they're doing there. And, which is really, really good to see. It's not like a job. It's like they have like a mission. And it's everything you see about Ionna and hear about it. Like it seems positive that they're really trying, and they're brutally honest that they don't have all the answers and that they're learning as they're going. And if they find something that isn't working right, they'll change. It's not like, we know what we're doing. How dare you, question what we're doing. So yeah, so that video went up a couple days ago, and I'll have the follow-up video with Phil in a couple days. I will give one spoiler, something that I kind of surprised me, which you're going to hear in Phil's video. They've abandoned the app. They're not going to have an Ionna app. Which
in favor of what? Just tap and go with your credit card? Yeah,
and plug and charge, which shocked the hell out of me. Because I had talked to them before. They were working on an app, and Dan kind of alludes to it in this, because I asked Dan, and he's like, well, I'll let Phil answer that. But then he said something kind of under his breath, like we're not really focused on that right now. And I didn't really catch it at that time. But then when I talked to Phil, and he's like, yeah, we're not doing that, which really surprised me, and which is good. I think a lot of people don't want to have to use the native app, but then like the app is also good for searching for things and seeing things. And now you have to find information elsewhere. So in any event, that's a little bit of a surprise to me. Kyle, did you hear anything about the app? Last I talked to them, they were developing it.
Yeah, no, not specifically. I should go over and talk to them more. Now that we're back in North Carolina, their headquarters are right down the road from us. So yeah. I'm going to pop over, say hi to the guys in a little bit, but it's just a super cool company. They're great to work with, like Tom mentioned. I absolutely love, being able to call someone if I have an issue and just talk to the guy who's responsible right there on the phone. Boom. And to be honest, I'm going to be doing all of our 10% challenges out of that Garner location that you got to go to, which is the sort of converted gas station. Did you go to that station, Tom?
No, that's an Apex.
No.
No. You mean the pull through Garner one? No, I didn't go
Yes.
to I didn't go to their. It wasn't in Garner. Did I say Garner?
Yeah.
It was,
It's in
no,
Durham is
anyway.
where they are.
It's in Durham, not Garner. Yeah.
Well,
I was
they
thinking
have a
about that
big
'cause
site.
we talked about that.
They have a big Garner site. And so
Yeah.
that's where we're going to do a lot of our testing out of, which will be because it's right off of I-40. So it's a perfect location for us.
Yeah. I did ask them, and you're going to see, do I talk about, in Phil's video, I'm like, look, because there's an Ionna site going to open up really close to me, like 10 miles from my house. They haven't even broke ground yet, but it's on their roadmap. I asked them, I said, I need a favor. There has to be some sort of a password or a special code or something I can plug in where the screen stops refreshing every 60 seconds. Because to do charge recordings, and there's 3 different screens. So you have to do 4 presses to get back to the screen that you want to. And every 60 seconds, it's really a pain in the ass. But I'd like to do my recordings on Ionna site. So it's funny. I asked Phil and then I asked Seth. I'm like, could you guys do something like give me a sequence of buttons to press and it goes into Tom mode so I could just record the screen. And the funny thing is, Phil looked at Seth as if to be like, I can do that.
We can actually do that.
And they stared at each other for like a few seconds. And Phil's like, Seth is like, all right, I'll talk to Phil about that. So like they actually might do that, like, which is crazy. But that's
amazing.
To Kyle's point, like, they're very approachable. They really seem like they want to make this work. And that's great. I mean, I can't imagine another company even entertaining that kind of request. You know what I mean? So, But anyway, I'm not saying they're going to do it, but they certainly may. And, I'm sure Kyle will have that code also. But if we do get it, Kyle, thank me because I'm the one that asked for it.
This is the Garner site on Brandon's channel that he went to go have a look at earlier this year. Brandon, don't you copyright strike us. Come on. We'll do a deal. We don't lose the $3 that this video gives us. So it's very, very cool. Very, very cool. Guys, I have to go. And do a pickup. You can carry on if you want to, because Tom knows how to end the stream, or we can call it a day. We can call it a show there if you want.
Is there anything else you need to chat about, Kyle, or what do you want to do?
I think the only thing, last comment, I went electric boating. That'll be a video going up this weekend, I think, which was really cool. And gosh, I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. Let's just end this thing.
So a shout out for Scott, who, if you haven't seen it, is new to Kyle's team. And I think she's doing a really good job of presenting EVs in her way, a very natural way. But she got to go to Rivian, because they've got a spin-off company called Also, or ALSO, full stop, in capital letters. It doesn't quite work when you're a podcaster like me, because also is a word that we use to join 2 sentences together. But it sounds very confusing. Also, that's the company name. They've released their new e-bike. There's a 4-wheel version for Amazon. And so go check out that. It's probably on reviews, is it, Kyle? Yeah. I would have thought so.
I think we put it on Bits because it was a bicycle, but it was cool. We also started Out of Spec Ranch. Go check out our new channel. We have a farm and we're farming. So
and
look
next
out
week,
for
Tom,
a video on this soon.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do a big section next week on how to take power out of your Tesla using the box that Tom was just holding. All right, I'm gonna go do a pickup. Thank you very much for watching. You guys in the audience are absolutely amazing. We're glad we could still put a show on, even with our ringmaster Dom on his travels. He's back next week. You know the deal. If you like the show, give us a thumbs up, because it tells YouTube to recommend us to other people in that little thing at the side. And you can hit subscribe if you're not done so already. Tom's not here. Dom's not here, so I'll get Tom to say it, which I always do in his absence. Come on.
I'm in his spot. So, okay, everybody. Ciao.
Beautiful.